El Chapo's hellish life in ADX Florence Supermax Prison. Few cartel kingpins are as feared or notorious as Joaquin Guzman, aka El Chapo. He once ruled the Sinaloa cartel at his peak, bringing in $3 billion each year. He controlled half of the Mexican narcotics trade. He owned a couple of yachts, a fleet of large jets, a diamond-encrusted pistol, and a private zoo with tigers, crocodiles, and panthers. But he wasn't just a good businessman. He was also a ruthless criminal who climbed the cartel pyramid by killing, maiming, and bribing. So it was no surprise that his head had a $5 million reward on it. El Chapo was arrested and sent to prison twice, but he escaped. However, after the third arrest in 2016, he was sent to a maximum security prison in the United States of America, a prison so tough no one has ever escaped it. Let's explore El Chapo's hell of a life in ADX Florence Supermax Prison and how the terrifying kingpin lives his days today. Before we get into this video, remember to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. When El Chapo was arrested in Guatemala in 1993, he was already a notorious criminal. He entered the narcotics trade at a very young age. Then he progressed with the help of Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo, aka Al Padrino, Spanish for the Godfather, and he was the leader of a famous Guadalajara cartel and the godfather of all the modern cartels. When Al Padrino was arrested in 1989, El Chapo saw this as a great opportunity to start his own cartel, the Sinaloa, and become the new leader of the Mexican trafficking trade. In 1993, he was arrested and sentenced to 20 years of prison. Still, in 2001, he escaped in a prison laundry cart after bribing prison officials. He gave some $2.5 million to the officials. El Chapo lived on the run for 14 years before he was arrested in 2014. Then again, he was sent to a maximum security prison in Mexico. Still, bribery and a giant fortune meant El Chapo would get away again. So he used the team to build an underground tunnel beneath his prison cell shower, but El Chapo couldn't just ride away in the sunset. He had escaped the prison twice. The DEA was fighting hard to have him extradited to the United States of America, and he was tried for his crimes on American soil, so in 2016, El Chapo was again arrested, but this time he was taken to the United States. Do you see the fear on El Chapo's face? Well, yes, that's right. The very same fear could be seen on El Chapo's face from the very first minutes in the United States airport. That is probably because he knew that his game was over. In 2019, he was found guilty of several criminal charges related to his Sinaloa kingpin status. He had ordered hits, bribed officials, and supervised countless shipments. He was sentenced to life imprisonment in ADX Florence, Colorado. On July 19, 2019, El Chapo arrived at his Colorado prison cell and was now inside the very same prison as the Unabomber. The Oklahoma City bomber and El Chapo are considered high-profile inmates, considered dangerous and prone to escaping. Hence, their treatment inside the prison matches their status. El Chapo and his fellow inmates spend 23 hours a day inside a soundproof cell. Their only hour of spare time is thoroughly supervised. Not only are prisoners led by several guards during rack time, but they are also cuffed and shackled and their torsos are chained. They cannot run or jump or do anything sudden. Of course, phones are also off the table. The only technology available is a small black and white TV set in their cell. Inmates only receive this TV if they demonstrate good behavior over a long period of time. El Chapo gets to watch TV if he wants, but the prison selects the program. So no streaming or HDV TV. If this sounds extreme, it's only because ADX Florence was built especially for dangerous escape-prone convicts. Subscribe to our channel All Time Crime and hit the bell icon for regular updates. Also, don't forget to like the video and share it with your friends. ADX Florence is the highest security prison in the United States of America, but it has not been around for a very long time. It opened its gates on November 30th, 1994. The Florence Supermax was built due to several incidents and the other prisoners in the United States during the 1980s. For example, security guards were stabbed to death at Marion Federal Prison, so ADX Florence set out to make a building impossible to escape, where there are more guards than prisoners, in a tight schedule that doesn't allow them to cause as much damage. This is why it's called the Alcatraz of the Rockies. ADX only hosts about 375 inmates, which is small considering that other prisons usually host in the thousands. Consider the effort they put into security. There are gun towers surrounding the prison, even though there are several rows of razor wire fences and dozens of guards at every corner. Therefore, El Chapo won't be escaping anytime soon. Still, it's not just ADX Florence's security system that has people talking about it. It's the life of the prison itself that creates the most buzz around it. Here is what the warden had to say about it. "I don't know what hell is, but I do know that what we have here is pretty close to it." For starters, the inmates spent 23 hours in solitary confinement. According to the United Nations, this qualifies as torture, which is worse than ignoring basic human rights. It is said that around a third of the Florence Supermax inmates suffer from severe mental illnesses. Still, after spending day after day in solitary confinement, the other two-thirds might discover some new mental health issues. A 2012 lawsuit against the ADX states it was alleged that years of isolation and almost no human contact had eroded the social skills and the ability to adapt them back from the ADX Florence inmates. The only contact with the outside world is a 4-inch window that is looking out to the sky above, and no inmate knows where their cell is located, and there are several cells. The inmates in the ADX Florence simply go mad and start screaming in their tiny cell and get involved in hurting themselves. Some mutilate their bodies with sharp razors, shards of glass, sharpened chicken bone, writing utensils, and other objects they can attain. During an iconic episode, one creepy incident involved an inmate biting off all of his pinky fingers. Do you think he would have done that if he was in the outside world? The extreme isolation of the Florence Supermax led to this terrifying moment. There are also cases of inmates taking their own lives pretty gruesomely. Florence Supermax is home to several hazardous people. One of them is a 1993 World Trade Center bomber, Ramzi Youssef. The only person convicted for the 9/11 attacks is also at ADX Florence. The Unabomber Ted Kaczynski terrorized the United States with bombs for 2 decades before his arrest and transferred to the Florence Supermax. Several other infamous bombers, from the Oklahoma City bomber to the Boston Marathon bomber, are held there as well. Still, not all the ADX Florence inmates are the worst of the worst. Some inmates have discipline issues as they have been transferred from where fellow prisoners or guards have attacked them. But the insane treatment is the same for everyone, and every inmate sleeps and spends most of their day alone in a 7 by 12-foot cell. There is a shower with a timer to prevent flooding and a steel unit comprising a toilet sink. Still, the prisoners can't even shower whenever they want. The battery is turned on automatically 3 times a week. The inmate won't even be able to sleep for too long either. The bed is a concrete slab with a thin mattress and a blanket, providing little to no comfort, as it is not the priority at the Florence Supermax. All the furniture is factual and the toilet unit is fixed to the floor because ADX wants to prevent the inmates from making DIY weapons. The mealtime is rough as well, as the inmates get their food delivered straight to their cell through small double-sliding doors. They eat alone and are not allowed to talk with other inmates down the hall. There are very few escapes from the madness of solitary confinement at the ADX Florence Supermax. For starters, there are libraries and inmates can borrow books and magazines to read. Then there are telephone calls limited to 15 minutes a month. In other prisons, the inmates can talk to their families every day, even if the calls are recorded and have a time limit. However, the ADX does allow visits up to 5 times a month, but all these visits are to be justified. As usual, inmates are once again supervised. In most other prisons, solitary confinement is a punishment for a few hours or a day, where prisoners are placed under solitary confinement for breaking prison rules and attacking other inmates. As of 2022, El Chapo has been at the ADX Florence for 3 years. His wife Emma has been fighting hard to give him more human treatment. Till now, El Chapo has had no human contact as he's being held at the Range 13, which is the most dangerous block of the ADX Florence Supermax. He doesn't get access to the shower and gets washed by a hose, as he once dug a tunnel under his shower to escape prison. However, El Chapo has filed an appeal, and whether his punishment is warranted or not, that's up to you to decide. After all, El Chapo killed many people due to his excessive greed for more money and power in his cartel. And with that, we are at the end of today's video. Let us know what you think about his punishment in the comment section down below, and make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to our channel, All Time Crime. And I will see you in the next one.